Welcome to a new episode here on a happy Saturday, because there is no sleep for money, right? Money never sleeps, and therefore also here on the weekends you will get all the news that you need for the stock market when it's open in Europe on Monday or on Tuesday in the US. Now, I talked about this stock already a couple of times because I think if you're looking into an airline investment, right, which is highly risky because, who knows how and how long it will take to bring these airlines back to life. But it seems that, in my personal opinion, if you choose an airline, Lufthansa AG is one of the most important stocks out there. And it seems also I'm not that wrong. If you know that this is the first big bailout that seems to be super close to finalize, okay? This is between the German government and the Lufthansa AG management. This is the CEO, and basically they are supposed to sign already on yesterday, but it didn't happen because there are some fine print that they need to agree on. Make sure to also sub this video if you like it. This is highly appreciated, obviously. But this obviously is one of the most important airlines in Europe, guys, okay? Lufthansa was very competitive. It was profitable. It was very strong. It has a couple of airlines in their group. I think one of the biggest airlines in the world, and I think top 3 or top 4 airlines. So I think this is a huge, interesting business. What struck me is the value, because they have about 30 billion euros in fleet value of airplanes, all fully paid. And on the stock market, I think they are valued only, the whole company, 3 billion euros. So, if you are thinking that this bailout will help, think about it. The stock is currently valued at $3 billion, 3 billion euros, and they will get now a bailout of $9 billion, okay? 9 billion euros. So make sure to think about that. Very interesting here. On the other side, let's talk about the details here. So we see one of the biggest bailouts that we have ever seen in Europe. And obviously the government has one big task that they have to follow, okay? Don't lose the taxpayers' money. So how they want to do that, and also obviously keep unemployment low and this kind of thing. So what would mean that for the German government? This means that if they give the 9 billion euros to Lufthansa, they obviously want a good stake in the company. So once Lufthansa go up, then they would basically lift also the stake and the taxpayers' value as stake. I think they are talking about now 20% of the company plus some convertible bonds and so on and so forth. So a pretty nice deal for the government. And however, the government also insists on 2 seats in the Lufthansa board, which means that they would also have decision making into the company, right? On the other side, Lufthansa said, hey, we throve so great before all of that, and now we are punished by this, something that we cannot even do anything about it. And now we want to avoid government intake or control over the company. Therefore, they want to give as less as possible and say, we are a taxpayer, we have so many jobs, we want to have as much money as possible for the bailout, but with less and less control by the government. We don't want to be an governmental airline. Okay, so this is now the back and forth between those 2 parties. Obviously, I think in the end they will agree on something. In retrospect, always these bailouts, also in the financial crisis when the US government went into some banks, the taxpayer didn't lose until then, okay? Just from the participation in those companies, okay? Nothing else. So just in the bailouts and the stake that they got into the companies were much more worth by now as they were back then. So, on the other side, I think it's a good thing that the government will consider something like this as a stock investment if you are in airlines and looking for something, right? So this big value drops I can see there. First of all, the company is valued around 3 billion euros right now, and getting 9 billion euros bailout for 20% stake. This would value the company on 5 times 9 would be 45 billion euros, guys. Okay, so much more than the stock market cap. And on the other side, they have 30 billion value of airplanes fully paid. Now there's one more thing, how Steve Jobs always like to say. The government want also that, and this is apparently the deal breaker right now, that they couldn't sign anything on Friday. The government want that Lufthansa will keep the deliveries and orders open to the Airbus flight airplanes, okay, that they ordered. So this is obviously, this is a wow and shocking moment for the Lufthansa management, because they said, guys, we are fighting against survival, right? We don't want to be the next Hertz that just went bankrupt overnight, and which I did vlog and live stream on this morning if you want and if you're interested. But however, this is obviously a very smart move by the government, especially Germany is also a big member of the European Union, and Airbus is the last big European airplane manufacturer and has a lot of jobs and infrastructure that they build, and a huge taxpayer obviously as well, and therefore they want to secure that those jobs and Airbus can thrive, especially against the competition from US Boeing. And therefore, I believe that it's really interesting how this move forward. If this happens, guys, I see not a good light on Boeing, because then you can imagine that maybe they will cancel some Boeing airplanes to get some Airbus airplanes instead. And I don't know if the US is demanding the same, Obviously, this will be very, very curious to see on the other side of the Atlantic, to see if US will have, if they bail out anybody, if they have the same conditions to buy the airplanes from Boeing. So this will be like a European versus US race in the airline industry. So obviously one of the most hit through this crisis. Unbelievable, guys. They basically went from very, very high revenue for those airlines, and now the top 7 airlines are less valued than the Zoom stock. That's unbelievable. That's consumer change behavior at its finest, right? So I believe, this is quite interesting what will come out of that. The Lufthansa management say, that's basically a deal breaker, because we would need 5 billion euros just to purchase those as financial resources to purchase or lease those airplanes from Airbus, and this would be half of the bailout. So maybe they can agree on something that I don't know, Germany maybe gives 2.5 more, so they say, okay, then therefore that you get the Airbus airplanes, you get 2.5 billion more from the government, so we make like 50-50. Maybe that's a solution out there. I'm very curious to see what can happen in the next couple of days. This will be a very, very interesting topic. Moreover, I believe that it's a very interesting thing to see how the governments now negotiate with the private companies. It's like, going back and back in time, where a lot of companies were held by governments, right? And now we are seeing that the governments has to bail out those companies who thrive through this crisis, or need to thrive through this crisis, right? Because the governments want to get their economy back on the running. So let me know in the comments below what you think. Thank you very much for watching, and I see you later, obviously, with my daily vlog and also with tonight's live stream. And enjoy.